This is why narcissistic people have really low chances of changing their behavior. You need self-awareness to be able to notice things in order to be able to change them. And this is why they're not set up to succeed very well because they lack that self-awareness. So if you cannot see your behavior and notice it and realize, oh, this is hurting people, how do you change it? You don't, because you don't think there's anything wrong with it. 2025 is coming to an end, and technically for you, it's going to be already over. But my healing from complex trauma is just getting started. This year brought progress, pain, more cut-offs, new tools, and what feels like a new life beginning to sprout after surviving many years of abuse. Today, I want to reflect on the things that I have learned so far, the things that worked, the ones that didn't, and what tools are making a difference in my healing journey. I want to offer these lessons to you to provide you with some ideas that you can try as the new year kicks in. Hello, trauma brains. For those of you that are new, hi, I'm Raisa. I am a trauma survivor who lives with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and I created this podcast because I know how confusing and isolating healing can feel. Welcome to Hello Trauma Brain. Here we talk about the ups and downs of healing complex trauma, boundaries, coming to terms with the fact that people I love were abusing me, and what it looks like to heal one slow and tiny step at a time. If you are living with C-PTSD or supporting someone who is, this podcast is for you. Welcome, new and returning trauma brains. I am so glad that you are here. New episodes are usually released every other Thursday or as my trauma brain allows. Before we get into the episode, a quick reminder that I am not a licensed therapist or mental health professional. Everything shared here is based on my personal experience, and this podcast is not meant to replace therapy or medical support. If you think you may be living with C-PTSD or any other mental health condition mentioned here, please reach out to a licensed professional who can support you. Any people, services, or resources mentioned in this episode are not sponsors of Hello Trauma Brain. Also, this episode may mention trauma or topics that could feel activating. If at any point you need to pause, take a break, or skip the episode completely, please do what is best for you. I also want to let you know that this is going to be the final episode for the first half of season 3. I will be taking a few weeks off, and then Hello to My Brain will return for the rest of season 3. All right, let's get into the show. A brief check-in. I pretty much made it through the holidays. I am recording this a few days before the year ends. So for you, it's going to be already the new year when you see this. But yeah, this year, it was another quiet holiday. I didn't do much of anything. I didn't make any plans to meet up with people. I just kind of cocooned with my inner kiddo. And that felt really good. Honestly, I feel like that's been what I have found the most helpful as I continue doing this healing journey. I feel like at one point I will probably want to make some plans, but pretty much I'm still sticking to the thing where I make plans, but not on the day off, just around it. And I feel like that just lowers the stakes a little bit for me. So the weather has been kind of up and down in terms of the temperature, but it wasn't cold to the point where I could not take a walk outside. And I did enjoy that. With the past few weeks, with this whole nights being longer thing, which at this point we're coming the other way, but still it's just dark so fast. I have not been able to walk that much. So it was nice to have some days where I was like, okay, I can actually take a walk in the middle of the day. And it felt really nice to do that. And it felt like a reclaiming of sorts to be out in nature again and being like, that's right, this is my thing now. And I love it. About the holiday, I will say Stranger Things had perfect timing. These releases of the season, their final season during the holidays, and basically surrounding the big ones of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. It's been helpful to like have that to be looking forward to, and then to kind of just sit back and enjoy the show as I wind down through the day. I think the rest of the reflection itself is going to be the episode. So I will shift into kind of sharing what this year as a whole has looked like for me. And I feel like this year in particular, I have made some progress that I didn't expect to make, or maybe this is the progress that I have been waiting to see happen in my life. And it's not like I got to the finish line and I'm all good to go, but I feel like finally this year I'm like starting to really see some signs, some significant progress that I feel like it's basically what I've been working towards. So, in terms of wreckage, the wreckage of this year has been more cutoffs, more distancing myself from people, people distancing themselves from me too. It's just been one of those things where, like, as I heal, I am changing. And as I change, everything else is changing. So, how I show up in other relationships changes. And yeah, some people are getting thrown off by that, and some are distancing themselves. In other situations, I'm noticing that it doesn't feel good for me and I'm distancing. So it has been a lot of that, a lot of wreckage in terms of detangling and dismantling everything that I have been doing so far and just changing everything from how I navigate my day, how I show up in other interactions, how I show up here on the podcast. Feel like this year has definitely been one where a lot of things just felt like they were breaking down or like falling apart. Maybe that's a better word for it. And then there's also the rebuild that I have been doing this year. And as I have been coming to terms with the falling apart of these things and the wreckage, as I rebuild, I have this chance now, this opportunity to take a look at what's in front of me and go, okay, what do I want in the rebuild and what do I not want on the rebuild? Because it just doesn't feel good to me anymore. So let's get into the meat and bones of this episode. And I want to start sharing the things that didn't help me or did not work out as expected during this year. So I started doing more work targeted towards my toxic inner critic. And in therapy, we've been trying different things. And I haven't been able to report this yet because we're in a holiday break from therapy right now. But something I learned is that see my inner critic as this enemy, this entity inside of me that is just trying to wreck my life, it's actually not very helpful. And recently, after going through a period of trying the F you to the inner critic and trying to push it away, I was invited to show some compassion and seeing how that felt for me. And I have to say, it's actually working. I think it is. I think the FU was helpful in a way, but the way I see it now after throwing some compassion at the inner critic is that actually I think the inner critic is still a part of me. And I feel like if I shame that part of me and I go, you're bad and get out of here and we don't want you here and fuck you and just shunning it, that's in a way re-traumatizing because that's the trauma seeing these people who are rejecting these parts of me that they didn't like. And I feel like doing that to my inner critic is almost like being like the abusers. Something that I found helpful was during one of my latest sessions in therapy, my therapist talked to my inner critic and she was just curious about it. She was like, where did this come from? Who told you that? Who taught you that? Whose voice do you think that is? Like questions like that, more curiosity. And as I have been trying that more myself with my inner critic, I'm starting to realize that this poor thing was just wired to do that and trained by my abusers. And I don't think my inner critic feels good doing it either. They just think they have to do this. And I've been working with my inner critic on, okay, like, that's actually not one of our values. Like, we don't treat people like that here. And you can give that stuff back to the people who gave it to you. And basically, what I do is I picture myself turning into a Super Saiyan. And for those of you that are familiar with anime, this is something from Dragon Ball Z. I grew up with Dragon Ball Z. I loved it. I was one of those few girls in school who liked the show, which it was Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z. And usually the girls would go towards Pokemon and the boys were towards Dragon Ball Z. And yes, I was one of those kids who was like, I like Dragon Ball Z. And this very violent anime. And I thought I was so cool. And it's basically like the running theme of my life when I was growing up. Like I was trying to be like one of the cool guys. I don't know what the heck I was trying to do, but no judgment towards myself. I did find the show entertaining. And something I found helpful about it now is that I kind of picture myself and like my inner kiddo and my inner critic, like we can turn into Super Saiyans and like we can turn into all these different colors and our hair color changes and the whole thing. And then we can make a Kamehameha ball. And I grew up with it in Spanish. So the way we called the special power was Kamehameha, which is this ball of energy that you can basically put together with your powers, and then you can like throw it at your enemies or whatever. So what I picture is me, my inner critic, and my inner kiddo, and we're all putting in this energy ball all the shame and all the toxic stuff the abusers taught us, and then we like literally throw it out into nothingness for it to basically like go back to them. And I feel like that has been helpful in letting it go and like letting the feeling come and pass. The other thing I learned this year that is not helpful to me is trying to implement someone else's system. And I'm going to use Notion as an example. I've mentioned Notion here and there in the podcast, but basically it is this productivity tool that is very customizable, and there are templates that you can use or you can make your own. And I went through a deep rabbit hole during the hiatus between season 2 and season 3. So this is like the summer towards the fall. I went all in watching all these YouTube videos and trying to put together systems that other people were using. And there's some helpful stuff there, but I feel like the more I try to push a system that was built in a certain way for me, the more I struggle to make it my own and implement it. And I found that the more I try to make this system I was seeing as an example work for me and just push it and force it, the less I was using it, the less it was being helpful, and the more pressure I just put on myself to make this thing work, to the point where I was spending more time trying to force the system than using the system. Something that I found helpful was letting go of the pressure and kind of going, I'm going to take what serves and leave what doesn't. And things started shifting once I started to make the system my own. So at this point, I feel like I'm getting there. And what's exciting about this New Year restart is that I have been working on this system and tweaking it for like half a year now. So I'm starting the year with this thing that is still in the works, but it's a little bit more set. And I have a feeling it's going to help me get some of my goals moving forward. So I'm crossing fingers that that's what happens. I still find myself stuck in this cycle, and I need to work on this, where I am working more on setting the system up than using it. And I know I'm not alone in this because I have seen other people who use Notion describe this phenomenon. So I'm trying to like start this year letting go a little bit more of that and actually like hitting the items that are there already. Another thing that I did not find helpful in 2025 was trying to do everything at once. And the whole Notion system didn't help me with that part, because once I started like seeing my tasks and I could drag them into my calendar and like plan my day, what I started doing was pack my day literally minute by minute with things to do. And it felt like I couldn't rest until everything in there was done and checked and finished. And let me tell you, feeling like rest had to be earned, and feeling like rest had to be something that I couldn't enjoy until everything was done was not helpful at all. And it was just contributing to this cycle of burnout. And basically, the cycle was feeling exhausted from trying to do everything at once, then feeling toxic shame because I couldn't do everything, then feeling like I couldn't rest because I had not earned it. Recipe for disaster. Definitely not good for me. And something that in therapy I was encouraged to do was rest. Like literally rest, take the day, take a half a day at least. You don't have to have everything done, just take the day. And I actually have been doing this during this holiday. I took 2 days off, completely nothing to do but just be. And then I started like putting pockets of doing things in between the other days. And I have to say, it felt good, and I still had my brain going like nonstop. Like even though as I was resting, my brain still kept, and it still does that. It just keeps throwing ideas. Oh, you could do this. Oh, you could try that in Notion. Oh, you should try doing this thing tomorrow. Oh, you forgot to put this thing on the list. It is not an all or nothing thing. I'm still getting used to it, but to notice my brain now and go, okay, like I can see that you're trying to do all these things. Thank you. But that's not helpful right now. We're gonna rest. We're gonna do it. And one thing I did was I had this piece of paper on my desk with a pen. And every time something occurred to me, I just went, okay, I'm gonna write it down on the thing. We're not gonna take our time to put it on the Notion thing. We're not gonna start doing it. We're just gonna put it here and just dump it here. And then I'll take care of it later. And I feel like that was helpful to make my brain go, oh, okay, it is gonna get taken care of. I don't need to keep repeating this. So that I did like. This next thing is something I have been learning for years now, and it's still something I'm learning. Understanding and learning everything there is about narcissistic abuse is not going to be enough to heal, and it's not going to be enough to avoid relationships with narcissistic people. I feel like this year I'm starting to understand the nuanced stuff that I need to be looking out for. And I feel like I've been focused so much on learning everything there is, to the point where I could literally probably like teach people about narcissism and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I feel like for years, didn't matter how many hours of content I was binging, I was still stuck in the same cycle and still getting into the same relationships somehow. And I feel like that knowledge was useful. It is not how you get healed. It is not what will get me to where I want to be. It is like one of the many things that need to happen. And I feel like I'm still understanding that and coming to terms with it. And this year, as I took a step back from the narcissism content and I started learning about other things, I started to realize that, like, okay, like doing these other things in my life are also helpful. And I feel like that's still something that's clicking and maybe getting closer to like hitting a click on the puzzle. One more thing that I did not find helpful this year and that I'm learning to untangle is having unrealistic expectations. And I've talked a little bit about this in the podcast this season, I want to say. And this is one of those things that as I started to let go of these expectations, I started to see significant progress in my healing. And this goes hand in hand with the radical acceptance, which is what did work. So the unrealistic expectations of me having to be perfect, me not being allowed to have a thought or have a memory or have something come back to me on a certain day, me expecting that like no insects are ever going to make it into my apartment, me expecting for, I don't know, to feel perfect. And as I started to let go of those unrealistic expectations, I feel like more of my humanity became allowed. And it's definitely something that I do not want to bring into my next year. The last thing I'll share in terms of things that did not work is the self judgment. Feel like I am the hardest on myself when it comes to criticism and judgment. I beat myself up like nobody else does. And it's definitely not been helpful. It has kept me stuck in many ways. And it also has sabotaged a lot of things that I feel that I would have loved to do sooner, and things that I have had on my list for many years that I want to get to. And I feel like this self-judgment and the perfectionism that kind of goes along with it have really held me back. And yeah, this year as I shift things and I continue growing, that's definitely something that I just do not want to bring it into the next year either. Now, what actually helped me this year? The first one was noticing, and this is still happening, and I feel like it's gonna happen for a long time. Just noticing, not taking any action. It feels like hell, not gonna lie. It still does sometimes, actually, most of the time. And here's the thing, if you don't notice it, you can't change it. Think about this. This is why narcissistic people have really low chances of changing their behavior. You need self awareness to be able to notice things in order to be able to change them. And this is why they're not set up to succeed very well, because they lack that self awareness. So if you cannot see your behavior and notice it and realize, oh, this is hurting people, how do you change it? You don't, because you don't think there's anything wrong with it. So for me, noticing things has been really powerful, and it's led to a lot of the actual momentum. I feel like the moment I started taking a step back and noticing it, it became intolerable to keep repeating it. And it led to me actually either saying something to the other person or taking a step back and then sitting and noticing how that felt. And when you take a step back from a person and you feel better, the data doesn't lie. It just doesn't. And it really makes a difference. So, yeah, a lot of noticing this year. And that looks like this: I will have an interaction and I will notice how I feel after. And something that I have been noticing is, what is the level of reciprocity that is getting played out in my relationships? And this looks like hanging out with somebody and then afterwards reflecting and noticing, okay, did they ask me questions? I know I was asking them questions. Did they reciprocate that? When I shared something, did they have curiosity about it? Or did they move on to the next topic? How long until they ask me anything? Does it feel like 90% of the interaction was them telling me what's going on in their lives and then the last 10% was me? I'm noticing, do I have like that sting on my chest or on my stomach, that ping that kind of tells me something's off here? Did I feel that while we were interacting? And something else that I've been noticing is like, even with the text messages, what is the response rate? Like, do they take weeks to get back to me? Do they get back to me like 2 minutes in? And does it feel like they're dumping on me? So, like, maybe I send a text message and then I get this laundry list of all the things that have been happening to them. And they haven't even checked with me to see if I have the bandwidth to withstand all that information. They just throw it at me. Or is it always a crisis when they reach out? And something that I have noticed is sometimes I get messages and they don't ask me anything. They're more like, "I hope you're well," type of thing, or thinking about you, which it is not that there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like there's a level of curiosity that's lacking where you just go, "I hope you're well," and that's it. And it definitely speaks volumes where like that's what they're sending to me. And here's the thing, back when I used to get these messages, I would ask, "Oh, thank you so much. And how are you doing?" And then I would ask the question and then get the laundry list of things. And I'm starting to take a step back and noticing how that works out. And two things are happening. They're not messaging me anymore, which very telling. And in some other occasions, they just keep insisting and looking for other ways to get to me. And that also is off. Like, I feel like I didn't realize how much I've been getting harassed by some people until I started to notice the patterns. And I was like, oh, okay, like this person didn't ask anything of me, sent me a huge update, and they texted it, put it on a voicemail, sent it through a message, emailed it also, used a different email in case that I didn't get anything else, and then send me a final message saying, in case you didn't get all these other attempts I've done, here it is again. It's like, whoa, whoa, this energy is not something that I want to be interacting with. And yeah, it's been a very, very noticeable year, to say the least. And the thing with noticing is if you're going to try it, know this. It's painful. It feels very uncomfortable. And you have to also notice that part and sit with it and almost like face it. Because that's the thing. When you are in the state that I was, where I was just on autopilot, not even realizing what was happening, just doing the usual, doing a lot of check-ins, always asking questions, always responding fast, always being the person that gets the crisis call and is going to drop everything and anything to be there. You don't quite get the chance to sit with how it feels. And usually, in my case, as I have been noticing all these things, I have discovered that it feels terrible. Feels awful to interact with someone for a long period of time and realize they didn't ask me a single thing the entire time. It is very painful to realize that the relationship was contingent on me acting in a certain way. It is painful to realize that someone you thought was your person has been trauma dumping on you this whole time and using you as a free therapist. It sucks. And I have a lot of work to do with that. I need to work on recognizing when something is not reciprocal and stop giving and over giving. And right now, it looks and feels messy. It feels like I am like really pulling back, and I might not be, I might be. I'm letting it be what it is because I feel like I need to titrate in order to go from over giving to maybe not giving so much. I sadly gonna have to hit this other end where I am really pulling back. And we're talking, I'm letting days go by before I even message back and just letting it sit and letting it be there. So if I get a text message and I feel this urgency and I start panicking and oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to send. I need to send something soon, but I have all these things to do, but I'm going to have to get at least 10 minutes to draft something and maybe I should get ChatGPT's help on it and maybe I need to reach out to my therapist and see what they think. Like if I get, and you can hear it right now, even how fast I started talking. If you feel that sense of urgency, when I feel that, I go, oh, wait a second. Why do I feel this sense of urgency? Why do I feel this obligation to drop everything to give my energy right now to this person? If I feel that, I'm letting at least 24 hours go by. That's going to be like the new thing. I'm going to let at least a full day go by before I even respond and see how I feel about it as the hours continue to accumulate. And it's helpful. It's really helpful. It kind of helps bring everything down. And sometimes the 24 hours come and I'm like, actually, I don't feel like responding to this right now. I don't have the bandwidth. So I let 2 more days go by and not judging myself for it, not beating myself up for it. Also, I sometimes, if the days are starting to really accumulate and I just have too much going on, I'm giving them a heads up, and I'm trying to get better at that because sometimes I freeze, and when I freeze and I open the thing and I can't think of what to say and I just feel paralyzed, that's also information, and I don't know what the heck that is about yet. I'm still figuring out what's happening there. And not every single person in my context list is toxic or out to get me or bad people. Not at all. This is just, I feel like we all have our dynamics playing out and we all have our things interacting with each other. And yeah, I feel like whoever's still in contact with me is, if you're listening or watching this, you're up for a little bit of a challenge here because I'm going to be changing. I'm going to continue to change and I'm just going to continue to challenge the dynamics we've had set for a while. It's just the way it's going to be. And you don't have any obligation. You don't owe me a single thing. You can totally opt out of that and be like, this is not what I want anymore, or this is not what I prefer to do. I'd rather do the old thing, and that's okay. If that's what you want, then we'll see where it goes. But that's the unavoidable side effect of having a friend who's doing this trauma healing work. It's just things are not going to be able to stay the same. And the invitation is there to grow together, and the invitation is not something you have to accept. And you can totally opt out and go a different path. And heck, I wish you well. And I'm going to have to grieve it just like they would have to grieve it. It sucks. It sucks when relationships end. And as someone who has lost so many people and so much already, it just feels really painful sometimes to like see one more person go. But the thing is that I need to do this work. This is really important to me. I cannot continue to interact in the same way. I cannot continue accepting behavior that is not good for me and that hurts me and really feels detrimental to my health and my well being. And I have a right to voice that and to work towards getting better. Just like anyone else in my life or who is going to be in my life has a right to do the same for themselves. And it's gonna be one of those things where, like, I might meet new people and my energy is just they've outgrown that stuff, and that happens, and I'm gonna have to come to terms with that, and it's okay. In terms of other tools that have been helpful for me this year, and some things I already knew about, but I have been doing them more this year, these are the nervous system regulation tools. Oh my gosh. Every time I do it, I remember all of a sudden why it's so good and why I should be doing this more often. And then I forget. And then I do it again. I have the same experience. And I'm starting to get to the point where I'm starting to do the thing more and it's becoming part of my routine. And it feels really good. And something that I have been doing during my days off is I'll light up a candle that I really enjoy, go on my yoga mat, sit there, and for 10 minutes, I do a body scan meditation and I just take my time with every part of my body and just sit there and breathe and close my eyes and just go in and notice what's going on for me. Chef's kiss, y'all. It really changes the energy that I bring into the rest of my day. Other things that I have been finding helpful is just breathing, like doing a little bit more breathing when I'm feeling more activated, taking quick breaks. Like even in my new group therapy, like we take a break halfway through. And for anyone doing group therapy, think about this. And if you would like to implement it, I invite you to do so. As someone who has done these groups, and they're usually like an hour and a half. An hour and a half of just like sitting there rigidly is a lot to ask for a nervous system. As a patient, I can say it feels so nice for my nervous system to go like recalibrate, take a second, go to the bathroom, get some more water, like just stretch my body and like move around because like being in that rigid position for so long can feel pretty restricting. And something that happens after the break is I feel a little bit better and also more energized, which is the big discovery about rest. Rest to me felt like, I don't know, it just felt like this luxury and like a waste of time, to be honest. And sometimes it still feels like that. But something I've been discovering about rest is it actually puts more energy in me. I have more energy and more bandwidth when I rest. And yeah, that 5-minute break, chef's kiss. I've been trying to do the same thing at work. Like I'll have pockets where I do focus work and then I take a few minutes to just get up and stretch, look out the window, get some more water, like walk around. And I feel more motivated when I get back on the chair and continue doing my work. Even podcasting. I usually record these episodes in one sit. And a little bit ago, I actually took a second because the light that I have going on, that ring light, is so bright. And I like had to close my eyes for a second and breathe. And I realized just then and there, whoa, why am I not taking breaks between podcasting? That's the thing about this stuff. Like once you start implementing something, you start realizing all the other parts of your life that you can apply it to. And if you start doing that, y'all, that's the progress. That little stuff that they say, like the one tiny step at a time, that's it. And it really makes a difference. One more nervous system tool I'll give you is also shaking it off. I've been doing that and like just shaking my whole body, just doing something, even like jumping up and down to kind of externalize all the energy. Because I feel like for us, people who are surviving trauma, everything just keeps getting stuck in the body and tense and just, yeah, it doesn't feel very good. But when you get to like just shake it off for a second and like recalibrate, whew, it really helps move things around. Okay. A little bit more on radical acceptance, even though I talked about it already. Radical acceptance about who I am as a person, what I like, what I don't like. Radical acceptance to accept my accommodations, the things that I need in order to help my brain. That has been huge. I have been trying to push myself to use and act and make do with what is given to me in the way that other people do things. And the more I do this work, the more I realize I'm not neurotypical. I'm a neurodivergent person. I have both acquired and earned neurodivergence, and I need to do things my own way. And even radical acceptance about that has been a game changer. Radical acceptance about the fact that things are going to happen. Like I used to see things, and this is the way I was raised, the way that I was taught. If something bad happened to you, that was a punishment. Like, I don't talk about the religious trauma a lot on this podcast, and that's something I do want to start doing more. Growing up Roman Catholic, if something bad happened to you, it was because most likely you were this evil sinner and God was punishing you. And though sometimes people would frame it like, oh, God is trying to teach you a lesson, it was still framed with this shame around it and this thing that, like, if you were good enough, bad things would never happen to you because bad things happen to those that need to be punished and taught a lesson. So when you grow up with that, having something this stressful happen just felt like this shameful, oh my gosh, I'm so bad. Like the world is punishing me now. And to accept that actually now, like cars break down for regular people, something breaks down at home, is not because I cut off the abusers and I'm getting punished by this entity out there. It is just because that's what happens. Like you have an appliance and after so many years, they're going to break down. There will be extra traffic on my way to work, and it's not a punishment from the world. It's just what happens. There's a lot of cars out there. There's accidents. Things happen on the road. Traffic happens. Not a punishment. Plans that I had didn't work through. Same thing. So for me, this radical acceptance looks like, okay, I'm a human being who's going to have good things and bad things or things I'm not going to like happening to me. And it has nothing to do with my worth. It has nothing to do with my goodness. I'm not losing any of my values. It's just part of being a human being. I will get sick. It's not a punishment from the universe. People get sick. And after many years of seeing radical acceptance towards them, they are the way they are. They are never going to change. Now, seeing radical acceptance from this bigger picture just lowers the stakes on everything. And you also stop taking things like so hard. Like when something bad happens, like it's not that I don't struggle, but if I don't have that added layer of toxic shame, this is a punishment, I have a little bit more bandwidth to deal with it and show myself that I can actually handle all these things and I'm not as helpless and as fucked as I thought I was. Honoring my instincts and following my gut this year has been a real game changer. The relief that I get is unreal. I feel like a lot of my OCD was wrapped around me trying to change how I felt about something or trying to change how something had happened and trying to control and force myself to do things that I just didn't want to do. I feel like not only honoring my instincts, but my experience, honoring that I have a right to feel in a certain way, however I feel, that I have a right to think things, and thoughts are not actions and they're not necessarily me or what I value. Honoring my intuition when it doesn't feel good to say yes to something. Like the other day, this guy at the grocery store, he's just sitting there. It took forever for him to like move on to another section. And he was trying to pick, I don't know, he was like in the carrot section. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And he has a right to be there. I'm not annoyed at him. And eventually he just like starts waving his hands like I think what he was thinking was like, fuck it, I'm not getting this. And he starts walking away, they didn't grab anything. But before he left, he turns around and he goes, I'm so sorry. And I was like, that's okay. But as he said, I'm sorry, and I said, it's okay, he like put his hand on me and it just didn't feel good. I could still feel the spot where he like touched my arm, like burning for like a good chunk of the time that I was still at the grocery store. And for a while, I was like, why do I feel like that? Like, is it a big deal? And then I was like, okay, no, let me like honor for a second that I didn't like that. And I'm allowed to not like that. Let me take in for a moment that like this is like a person that was way taller and bigger than me who I do not know, who put their hands on me. And like that's a lack of boundaries. That was inappropriate. Like I wouldn't be going touching people around at the grocery store. It's just not my move. And I'm allowed to not like it. I'm allowed to feel annoyed by it. And well, I'm even feeling pain like right now in my lower abdomen. Talking about it. I think my body's like clocking in that this was just an uncomfortable experience. And I took a moment at the grocery store like a few minutes later because I was just like ruminating and OCDing my way through this. And I like closed my eyes and it's like in my mind said to my inner kiddo, sweetie, you're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be angry. He shouldn't have put his hand on you. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I'm sorry I didn't say anything. And I'm noticing it. I'm noticing how you felt. I'm noticing that we don't like this. And I'm going to do my best for next time to be able to protect us. And it helped bring things down. And I was feeling some shame about the fact because I said that's okay to the apology about being there for too long because he doesn't have to apologize for that. And I just wish I wouldn't have said it because what wasn't okay was what he did after. And I felt the shame. And then I was like, even now thinking about it, like, I didn't know he was gonna do that. And of course, I froze when he did. That's how I survived. I didn't have the luxury of telling people off growing up and fighting back. And when I did, it did not go well, which is why I freeze now. And fun, because that's okay. It's the fawning thing too. And just to like allow that and honor my trauma responses and honor that those things were so helpful. They saved my life. And I'm still noticing, and it's going to take some time to undo all this stuff, and it's going to be a process. But the fact that I noticed, the fact that I was able to pinpoint it is giving us a good chance to address it. If I couldn't notice that that made me uncomfortable, I would keep accepting it left and right, and I wouldn't be thinking about how to change it. So, noticing. I cannot talk enough about rest. What I am hopefully going to be doing during the hiatus, rest, rest, rest. And as I'm saying it, my brain is throwing me things that I need to do because that's what it does. But I'm going to get some things done and also rest. And I want to be unapologetic about it. And no, I don't have to earn it. And I don't have to have the list done. I don't have to be anything else. I literally have a right to rest. Another thing that I discovered this year and has been huge is discovering that I have executive function deficits. Probably can be categorized either too exceptional, like 2E, or multi E. And this is a new thing that I learned this year. I didn't realize that I was gifted and talented. And when I say gifted and talented, I don't mean a genius who knows everything and anything. I mean, I have gifts and talents in terms of some areas, and my brain is very good, and like I'm very good at doing these things. But I also have learning disabilities, which completely got swept under the rug and not noticed by the teachers at school. I literally went through the radar. And because I was able to work very hard and keep my really good GPA, just people didn't notice. And for a second, nobody stopped to think that that girl with the good GPA also had a learning disability. I did not present like people who had other learning disabilities. And yeah, I've been living all these years without the language, treatment, and the accommodations. And let me tell you, it has sucked. I now am starting to realize that I have no idea how the fuck I did it, because as I have started to put accommodations in place for my brain, I'm realizing how much harder I've been working this entire time. And when I tell you working harder, I mean like smoke coming out of my brain hard, overworked, overexhausted, burnt out, and just, yeah, sad that I didn't have the help. I think I have dyscalculia. I have a really hard time understanding mathematical concepts. Left and right is a shit show. I always like get them confused. And a common misconception with dyscalculia is that, oh, it's just like dyslexia for numbers. No, that's different thing. Like the numbers are not really jumping around for me. It's just that I don't understand well how they work and how things work. And I still need to use like my fingers to count, and thank goodness for the fucking calculator. And music is so mathematical, and that explains why, even though I went to a music conservatory in Puerto Rico for years, music theory just never clicked. It was always something that I could like bottle and like do the test real quick, but the understanding never clicked. And now looking back with how mathematical music theory is, yeah, that's why it wasn't clicking, because I have a really hard time understanding mathematical concepts and like really learning them properly. Another thing about executive functioning deficits is I have a hard time prioritizing things, which is why my list looks the way it does, where everything looks like it's an emergency and urgent and it needs to be done today, when in reality, probably like three things out of the 150 items I have in there are actually urgent. But in my brain, everything is urgent and everything needs to be done right now. And I don't have a good way of like prioritizing things without extra help. And here is where the accommodations have come into place to help me. I started doing some research in terms of how to help executive functioning. And I found a YouTube channel by Seth Perler. There's also the Executive Function podcast. And these are newer things for me, but thinking about my brain in that way and navigating things. I'm currently like rethinking how I have things around the apartment and how to set myself up for success and how to keep things more accessible. Like even the template I had for podcasting, like things all over the place and jumping around and like stuff like that for a brain like mine, fuck it, it's not good. So as I'm starting to look at things and go like, okay, how do I make this easier for my brain? How do I keep things all in one place? So if I'm doing one thing, I don't have to like jump through 10 things to like get what I need. I just have everything in one spot, and it does help the chances of me getting the stuff done. So that's been a rabbit hole that is a newer one that I am definitely going to continue doing the next year. And it has just been so refreshing to like also take in and like, instead of beating myself up for not doing things like everyone else, like just embrace it and see myself starting to thrive and do better, because now my brain actually can keep all that bandwidth I was using to force things to actually do things. Self compassion is not cliche. I know it sounds like self love in a woo woo way, but let me tell you, self compassion is one of the things that actual studies are finding is making a difference and is separating people that are healing from the people that are not. Like if you can get to cultivate self-compassion, it will help so much, because if you can have self-compassion, you can help reduce the toxic shame. You can allow yourself to be a human being who can make mistakes. And if you can get there, you will live a life where you're not punishing yourself 24/7 for existing. Sounds pretty good to me. Still working on it. Self-compassion with an inner toxic critic, pretty fucking hard. And that's where I think the compassion thing has been a big piece for me. Like, as I have been not only showing myself compassion, but that toxic inner critic, I feel like things are starting to fall into place a little bit more smoothly. It's not a I'm done, I figured it out thing, but I'm definitely finding it helpful. So I want to share a few epiphanies. One of them is I finally figured out the quote from last year's episode. So last year I did a holiday triggers episode and I was talking about That Christmas, which is a Netflix movie, which I rewatched this year, still solid. And I couldn't remember a quote that I wanted to talk about, and I did this year as I was rewatching. So I want to share that real quick. And the quote was, or more like a scene in the movie, is Santa Claus was giving this monologue about how Christmas can be like a magnifying glass. And I want to share that with you because that captures so well why, for us survivors of trauma who have cut off people and who have a hard time in the holidays, like this is why. Because Christmas can be a magnifying glass. If you are jolly and the people in your life are healthy and great, you're going to have probably a really good time. But if you're feeling the isolation, pain, and shame of cutting off abusers, interacting with some of them, being forced to interact with the rest of them, it's painful. It's a magnifying glass and it feels extra painful during the holidays. And that is why. So, nothing wrong with you if that is how you felt this year. Do I still have doubts and second guess myself? All the time. I still wonder what is wrong with me. I did catch myself yesterday talking back to that part of me that is going, what is wrong with me? Why are all these people leaving? Why do I feel off right now? And I feel like I don't want to talk to anybody. And I caught myself telling that part of me that was coming up, nothing is wrong with you. The reason we're feeling so uncomfortable with the old dynamics and the reason that it feels like hell right now is because these feelings of discomfort are showing us that we are growing and we are outgrowing some of those dynamics that just don't feel good for us anymore. As much as the discomfort doesn't feel good, it's also good because it's telling us that we're healing the wound. It's telling us that we are changing, that we're not accepting mistreatment, that we're not accepting things that don't feel good anymore. And that's a good thing. I'm going from feeling abuse as familiar to feeling it as painful, which is really what it feels like to be abused. All these triggers that keep coming up are not failures. They are just information telling us what needs to be healed next. Grief and growth can happen at the same time. Here's the thing with the grief, that pain is always there. It has always been there, stuck in my body, dormant, waiting to come out. The reason I'm feeling it now is because it's finally safe to feel it. It's finally safe to acknowledge it, sit with it, and release it. So, the last thing I want to share are the book recommendations. I used to love reading as a kid. I would devour books so fast and I couldn't read enough. And then high school and college happened to me and it absolutely ripped the joy out of reading from me. And I did not read for many years. If I read, it was very few books. And something I have been doing this year is listening to audiobooks, which a part of me would see it. And sometimes I wonder if it's cheating, but no, it's not cheating. It's absolutely the same as going through a book. And the audiobooks are helpful because I can multitask while I'm still enjoying the book and taking in the information. And let me tell you, getting back to reading this year and like actually reading quite a few books, pretty fucking cool. It feels really nice to like reconnect with that part of myself. And I have heard other survivors talk about this. I have definitely heard Nate Postlethwaite say that he couldn't read. And then after he did, I think he did like a lot of EMDR sessions, now he like reads all the time and he reads books like fast and yeah, he's just constantly reading. And I'm feeling really proud and excited because I love reading so much and I have rekindled that connection and I'm reclaiming it. And I have felt really great reading the books that I have gotten to listen to or read this year. So I want to share a few things with you in terms of books. I'm going to start with the inner kiddo stuff. My inner kiddo got The Doctor is a Bluey book. And it's actually one of the episodes I've seen it. And yeah, it's a nice book. And I kind of keep forgetting it's here. I need to remember this a little bit more because I want to start making a habit out of reading her a bedtime story. Yeah, it's just really nice. Just stuff for the inner kiddo, which she loves. More inner kiddo stuff. My inner kiddo also got 2 Bluey magazines this year for crafts. This is the Healerween, like the Halloween version of it. And it has like little craft stories and things you can do for like Halloween season. And it helped make Halloween a little bit more fun for us. And I did some crafts. And I also got the Happy Holidays one, which was the one that we used on this latest holiday. And this holiday that just went by, I'm kind of rebranding it the Klaus slash Healer Days because we love the movie Klaus and we love doing healer activities. And for those of you that are not familiar with Bluey, Bluey is a blue healer dog, and the last name of the family is Healer. So that's why there's a lot of healer and rebranding things for the Bluey magazine. And in terms of memoirs, not all of these I read this year, but I have read them in the past few years as I have been healing. Notable memoirs. I'll start with the first one that I read back when I started healing is Believing Me by Dr. Ingrid Clayton. Ingrid was a guest on the podcast last season. For those of you that haven't checked out her episode, I will link it to the show notes. This is chef's kiss right here. If you are healing from narcissistic abuse specifically and have complex trauma, this is for you. Up next, I actually heard the audiobook on this one and ended up buying the hard copy recently because I loved it so much. And I kind of want to start a healing collection on my bookshelf. Is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Chef's kiss. The audiobook is so good. She narrated it herself and it's brilliant. Really funny too. And actually, Jeanette is about to release her debut novel, which is called Half His Age, and it comes out on January 20th. So looking forward to reading that because this was a great book. So I know she's a really good writer. The most recent memoir I just finished and also an audiobook, also bought the hard copy because I loved it so much and I wanted it to be part of my collection, is Semi Well Adjusted Despite Literally Everything by Alison Stoner. Alison has many talents, and one of them is voice acting. And Alison narrated this audiobook too. Now, something that I really enjoy with the audiobook is that Alison used their voice acting skills and they're doing their own voice. The parents, any other people, they are also doing a voice for them, including the kid. Like when Alison was a child, the parts where they're sharing what their child was thinking and their experience, there's also a voice for the child, and it was just like so cool, so well done. I hope they get an award for narrating the audiobook because I thought it was really brilliantly made and really enjoy this one. Now, all these memoirs I've related to them, but in particular, Semi Well Adjusted, something about how Allison processes information and how they share, how they process that information that just felt very much like my experience growing up. And as a former child performer, it's just, yeah, these memoirs with Allison and Jeanette McCurdy, they talk about their lives like being child performers, and it was just so relatable. Up next, memoir by another guest of the podcast, Sir Thriving by Francesca McCowan, another great read. And if you also have not checked my episode with Francesca, I'm going to link that also to the show notes. A few more books in case that you're looking for things to add to your reading list in 2026. Fawning, also by Dr. Ingrid Clayton. She actually came on the podcast before this book was released, but we did talk about fawning. So that episode that I'm going to put on the show notes is about fawning. And Ingrid also got to narrate her own book. So it's really nice to like listen to the audiobook and hear her voice going through the book. And yeah, I've told her this, like she should consider doing podcasting because she's got a good voice for it. A few more books. The Upside of OCD by Dr. Michael Alsay. I have recommended this book before, but I wanted to point it out because I found the approach very helpful for those of us that are struggling with OCD. The last three are by the Dr. Ramani Durvasula. And the first book I'm going to share is the latest one that I have read, and I listened to the audiobook, which also was narrated by Dr. Ramani, is Not You. Identifying and Healing from Narcissistic People. This is a must read if you're also surviving from narcissistic abuse. And I want to say it does a good job combining everything that Dr. Ramani has been talking about in the past few years. So if you kind of want to start with a book that has all the things, including the healing part, this would be a good place to start. I also enjoyed a lot that she narrated the book because she's got a podcast. Like she definitely has a good voice for doing narration. And it's really nice to hear her narrating her own book. The last two books I'm going to share are also by Dr. Ramani. I want to say I finished this year. I might have finished it last year, but it's called Should I Stay or Should I Go? Really good book if you're still at the trenches of figuring out what to do and you need some help and some guidance in terms of what to think about. This read is going to be for you. And the last book I will share, also by Dr. Ramani, Don't You Know Who I Am? I actually need to start reading this one. I've had this for a while, but then Is Not You came out and I went there first. So this is going to be a read for this upcoming year. And this is also on how to stay sane in an era of narcissism, entitlement, and incivility. So narcissistic abuse survivors, another read for you. Even though the episode is running long, I do want to take a moment to celebrate my wins for this year. And not skip it because I have a tendency to not celebrate myself very much, but I'm working on that. So here are my wins for 2025. Started working with a new therapist who is working really well for me. I feel like we're a good fit. I've been thinking about why we're a good fit. And I think part of it is we process information in a similar way, which helps her be more attuned to me. And also, she's a very skilled childhood trauma therapist. And I feel like that childhood trauma piece has been crucial for my therapy journey. So at the beginning of the year, I left a therapy group that I was in. It was not working for me. And it was a hard decision to make. But I am glad that I did that because I needed the time off that I got. And I recently started a new therapy group. So I'm going to celebrate myself for taking the risk and starting a whole new group from scratch and yeah, just going for it and seeing how it goes. I have let go of some people in my life that were kind of like in the background coming in as they wanted. The more I've been doing this work, I just started to realize that they were not aligned with me, and when they would reach out, I would just not feel good. And after much stress and rumination and all the things, I finally like sent a message letting them know that it's just not working out and letting that be. For a long time, I felt this push like if I needed to end something, it had to be in person. And though that's a good rule of thumb in like relationships, I'm reserving that for people who like are really close to me and who like, it's a developed dynamic. And if it's someone who like I haven't talked to or seen in years and they like just send messages randomly here and there, I'm allowing myself to like, okay, like match that reciprocity instead of over giving and giving them the best communication style ever possible when they're not really giving that to me, just matching the energy and letting that be good enough. And I have to celebrate myself for that because it was really hard to do. I'm also letting other people fade, like the people that are not messaging unless I am engaging with them and like taking care of their crisis. They're just fading out on their own and I'm letting it be. And that can be very uncomfortable because it can trigger that, oh no, like what did I do wrong? I must have offended them. They must be pissed at me. But like a part of me is like, okay, like they're welcome to come to me and let me know if they feel that way. And if they're deciding to fade, I'm just letting it be. And that's okay. I'm not entitled or nothing is owed to me in terms of communication from other people either. My first article was published. I just felt joy saying that in the Healing and C-PTSD Chronicles. Listening to my screaming body is the name of the article, and I'm really proud of that. Also, being proud of having been featured in the Q&A series in the About That Jack blog, and yeah, just taken in that I have been able to have more guests on the podcast. I'm going also through this period where like a lot of people are reaching out to be on the podcast. And let me tell you, that's its own thing. I like have to like pull myself from saying yes to everybody and like see, okay, what's actually a good fit for the podcast? What would work for the schedule? Because as much as I love to say yes to everybody, I can't. And yeah, I'm also celebrating myself for promoting the podcast a little bit more this year, including starting doing the video solo episodes. Like this is new. It's the second one I've done so far all by myself. I also started doing the YouTube shorts and like seeing that start to reach other people and taking it in is a not a bit, it's a win. It's an actual win for me. A scary one because I'm scared that it might bring some unwanted attention, but also a win. I have noticed that my OCD and my entomophobia, which is my phobia of insects and bugs, has decreased a bit this year. I feel like with the tools that I have been getting, it's getting a little bit easier to navigate the spirals, and I'm noticing less of the really hardcore triggers. And though I'm still experiencing it, I still feel better equipped to deal with the stuff when it comes. I feel like I've been showing up more authentically everywhere, including here. Even with the video episode, I feel like more authenticity is coming out. And it sounds like you are resonating with it, given how many more views I've been getting in the last episode and with the YouTube shorts. I started a new productivity system, the Notion system, that is still in the works, but I am starting to see myself making progress, finding a way to make it something that really works for my brain. So I am also going to celebrate myself because I worked very hard on that for months. And I feel like I'm getting to a point where like I feel really good about what it's coming together there. I started meal planning and I won't go into detail about it, but it's definitely been helpful in terms of reducing all the work that I have been doing in the kitchen. I do love cooking, but I was spending a lot of time doing it. And it's helpful, especially on therapy nights where you just want to have something already made. And also helps with the budget because I'm not eating out as much. And yeah, I have a few more things that I did super recently that I want to give myself credit for and share in case that you find them helpful is also like getting like little things that bring joy and improve my life and my system. Like I had this bag that was just hard to carry and was starting to fall apart. But I was like, well, it's not completely falling apart. Maybe I should use it till it's really used up. And even though it's still in the apartment, it's not being used anymore because I got a new tiny crossbody bag that I love and it brings so much joy and it's still bringing joy. And it's just like little things like that. Like lately, I've been taking a look at things and like there are these annoying things I have been doing and just making work. And to give myself permission to be like, actually, I would like to replace this and do it better. And I have a right to do that. The last thing I'll share is an app that I started using recently called Finch. And it's an app where like it's tracking habits and like giving you points. Like you have like a little pet. And mine is called Luxie, named after Rosalia's newest album, Lux, which by the way, one of my favorite albums this year. Basically, Luxie grows with me doing the tasks. And it's been helpful to like get that little motivation. And though I saw some reviews that were calling it infantilizing to use that approach, to be honest, my inner kiddo fucking loves it. She loves games. And I'm having fun like clicking on the thing and seeing Lucy grow. And it's actually getting me to do some of the things that I tend to forget because part of like my executive function deficit is if it's not in my face and something is not telling me to do the thing, I'm just not going to think of it and I'm not going to do it. And I will think about the thing when I cannot do it and just feel shame perpetually for years to come. So this is actually helping me make some progress, which I enjoy, welcome, and can't wait to keep doing in the next year. So I want to wrap up this whole reflection with saying that I'm not huge on resolutions. I prefer to think of it as goals or intentions that I want to invite myself to consider and perhaps try out. As I'm thinking about switching to the new year, I want to set the intention of continuing to make things as easy as possible for me. If there's an easier way, a way where I can ask for the help, use the tools, and reduce the pressure, I want to go for it because I got nothing to prove. I don't need to show someone that I can do everything by myself with no help. That's not good for anybody. It's definitely not good for me. So, yeah, I want to proceed with gentleness, easiness, and a lot of self compassion and see how it goes from there. In this episode's healing invitation, I want to offer you a few things to reflect about. Reflect on how 2025 went. What worked? What did not? Perhaps you can set yourself some intentions or some invitations for the new year. This could be perhaps you checking out one of the books I mentioned during the episode. Are you able to identify something that you and your inner kiddo need? If so, are you able to start taking steps towards meeting that need? There is no deadline or anything to force. This is something that you can bring into the new year and not just the first month, but as the year progresses. Try to bring that noticing and that curiosity. When you pinpoint something that is no longer working for you, think about if there's something that you can do to maybe change it. Please let me know in the comments how this episode's healing invitation goes if you choose to accept it. Before we wrap up this episode, all music and production is courtesy of yours truly. And I'd love to share a few ways you can help support the podcast. You can subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you're listening. Share this episode with anyone you think might find it helpful. Follow the podcast on Instagram at Hello to My Brain. Subscribe to the Hello to My Brain YouTube channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when new episodes go live. And if you like, you can also make a donation via PayPal. Thank you in advance for your support. Even a little goes a long way in helping this podcast reach more survivors who could benefit from this content. No worries, links to everything will be in the show notes. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. I will miss you during the hiatus and can't wait to talk to you when the podcast returns. I wish you the best as you start a new year and your healing journey. It is time for our farewell affirmations. I invite you to repeat after me. I welcome the belief that I am enough. I am lovable. And I deserve to heal. If you are watching on YouTube, there will be links on the screen shortly. You can click to subscribe and check out other episodes. I wish you a gentle hiatus. Thank you for your presence, and I will see you next time.